Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome for this new KIME online briefing. It's a real pleasure having you tonight for this new briefing. Sorry, and today we will explore one of the most pressing challenges facing our societies today: the intersection of artificial intelligence, social media, and anti-Semitism. As you know, anti-Semitism has always adapted to new technologies, and today, AI-powered systems, recommendation algorithms, and social media platforms are transforming not only how hate spreads, but also how quickly it reaches new audience and contributes to radicalization. And we do have plenty of example of this kind of new forms of anti-Semitism. To set the scene today, we will begin with some key findings from the Anti-Semitism Research Center, the ARC, from the Combat Antisemitism Movement with Oliver Marks, who is research associate at ARC and who will present recent data on how AI and social media are reshaping the online information environment. Then we will have the pleasure to welcome our two distinguished speakers. Dr. Lev Topor, who is head of the Cybersecurity program at the Academic College of Tel Aviv-Yaffo, also an ISGAP fellow and author of Synthetic 8. Thanks a lot, Dr. Lev Topor, for being with us tonight. And Veronika, who is a senior ministerial officer on combating anti-Semitism at the European Commission. Thanks a lot, Veronika, for being with us as well. So yeah, before we start, as I told you, I will give the floor to Oliver, and please feel free to ask any questions you may have on the chat, and we'll have a few minutes right after to answer your questions. Thanks a lot for that. Oliver, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shannon. As Shannon said, I'm Oliver. I am a research associate at the ARC, and I want to first introduce some of the ARC's own reports that we've done on AI and anti-Semitism and on social media. Can everyone see my screen? Everyone can see my screen, Shannon? Okay, so
Everything is perfect.
perfect.
Thank you.
The first reports I want to talk about is a series of reports we did on a phenomenon across all social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, of a series of AI rabbis that came about. We did a report, we found, it says there 92, it's actually 192 AI generated rabbis across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube with a combined millions of followers and combined tens of millions and even hundreds of millions of views. The AI generated rabbis speak a lot about Jewish secrets. They use a lot of language such as only Jews know, we Jews do this, we Jews never do this. And it really plays to kind of centuries old anti-Semitic tropes. They're there to really sell financial courses. So these people are sort of bad actors trying to make money off anti-Semitism. And the AI generated rabbis are sort of used to give legitimacy and credibility to these anti-Semitic tropes. The next report I want to talk about is this report, Algorithmic Escalation. We had a question. We were wondering if someone seeking very mainstream content, here we did two fresh accounts made on fresh emails. One was about wellness and biohacking, and the other was fitness and discipline. We followed only very mainstream, non-conspiratorial like content creators. And over 3 days in 45-minute sessions, we scrolled simulating how a real user would use Instagram. So we liked always non-conspiratorial content. We commented and occasionally we followed new mainstream accounts. We then we've classified all our, like the videos we saw across 4 levels. Level one was any anti-establishment content. In our database, this came up as criticisms of the government, very like sovereign living, living off the grid content, and a lot of anti-ultra processed food content. Level two was conspiratorial narratives. It was sort of similar, but with more conspiratorial lenses, talking about how Big Pharma and the food system had been corrupted intentionally, how masculinity was being suppressed. Level three was coded anti-Semitism. This again was sort of similar narratives, but now starting to imply that, this corruption is on the basis of Jews and global elite. They often use sort of coded ways of talking about Jews using like the song Hava Nagila. That was often used while they spoke about the global elite to sort of imply Jews and also to bypass any sort of moderation. And level four was explicit anti-Semitism. It was saying Jews run the world. It was a lot of like Hitler support and Nazi support. I'll show you some examples in a moment. So here's some of the data that we got. This is from the fitness and discipline persona. We found that across the 3 days, 24% of the recorded content was either level three coded anti-Semitism or level four explicit anti-Semitism. And we actually had our first ever explicit anti-Semitism video on only day two, only one day after the account was created. This is the same one for the wellness and biohacking persona. 32.2% of the videos recorded were level three or level four. Here's some of the examples of the level three content. And then here is some of the examples of the level four content. So as you can see, quite horrific stuff. And this was all recommended to us on, the normal recommendation algorithms within 3 days. Finally, I want to talk about a report that actually we published this morning. So it is very exciting. It is talking about the clip economy. So first, I want to talk a little bit about what is clipping because not everyone will be familiar with it. Clipping is a sort of relatively new form of short form content where streamers on platforms such as Kick and Twitch will make hours long videos or streams, and people will clip moments of them, post them on Instagram, post them on TikTok, post them on YouTube Shorts, and they get thousands of views. We took 5 Instagram clip accounts and we analyzed 1,960 videos posted by them. And each video was classified as either anti-Semitic or not anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic videos were then archived into a database. We then also isolated each of the account's top 15 highest performing videos, and then again classified again, anti-Semitic or not. What we found is that despite anti-Semitic videos only making up 4.7% of the 5 accounts' videos, they made up 32% of the account's 15 most viewed videos. It was 6.7 times more likely to appear in an account's 15 most viewed videos if it had anti-Semitic content. What's important about this is these clipping accounts, really they're optimizing for views. That is all that matters to them. They are trying to get as much engagement to their accounts as possible. And what this research shows is in this new attention economy, anti-Semitism performs well, and these accounts are then inclined to post anti-Semitic content. That's all from me. Shannon, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Oliver, for these interesting findings, which are at some point particularly preoccupying, because as we can see, algorithms are clever than human beings, and we need to master it. You can see all of this information and all of these reports also on the CAM websites, so everything is available online as well. Before we move forward, and thank you again, Oliver, for these findings, I would like first to give the floor maybe to Lev Topor, Dr. Lev Topor. Based on your research, how has AI, artificial intelligence, fundamentally changed the nature of online anti-Semitism compared with previous waves of digital aids?
Yes, thank you. This is a very precise question, right? Because what is the difference? Anyways, people have hated Jews for thousands of years. People sadly and probably will, discriminate against Jews in the future. So what is the real difference, right? So we need to look at technology and understand technology and ask ourselves, how does technology facilitate human social behavior? And our subject, of course, is anti-Semitism and hate. So if we think about the historical perspective, we know that people, back then, way back then, used to just talk and stand on platforms and give speeches and so on, sell their propaganda, so to speak. Later on, with the print revolution, people would actually print their propaganda, sometimes anti-Semitic propaganda, and disseminate this into books, pamphlets, newspapers, and so on. After print, we had radio, of course. And of course, radio is a one-to-many broadcasting system. So you would just say something and those with transmitters would hear you, right? The Nazi regime actually used radio and print and also film to disseminate hate like this. But what would it take to create, let's say, a book, an anti-Semitic book, let's say Mein Kampf? How long would it take, people to write it actually? Back then, a few months, maybe, and a movie, again, a few months, maybe even more than that. Now, as we move on towards efficiency, towards the internet in the 80s and 90s and so on, up until the recent years with social media, we see that now we can maybe not create, but disseminate it much faster and much more in a much more precise manner. So we can do micro targeting. We can target this population and this community and this Facebook group and so on. And now in the age of AI, we can not only target, but we can do smart targeting with smart AI enhanced algorithms that actually can understand what we do. So each and every one of us, we don't see the exact same message. We see something slightly different, right? So it creates division between people, between the actual people themselves. And the other thing it does, except of this scale and speed, is the scale and speed of the content itself, right? So we have the delivery system, so to speak, but we have also now the content. So I can open up an AI and ask it to write me a chapter, a whole book, create me a meme, right, and so on. And some AI systems are, of course, censored and have guardrails and so on online. But now we also see maybe a tiny shift toward local models that you can actually download to your computer, and then it is uncensored and it's not connected to the internet, so nobody can even see what you're doing. And you can just ask it, go ahead and create me a propaganda pamphlet, or go ahead and teach me how to even, we'll go to the extreme example, how to make a terrorist attack, how to make chemical weapons, and to, disseminate it so you would harm people, so to speak. So scale and speed and the generation, of course, the quality, but also the veneer, the facade of this, right? Because many people also look at AI, not the maybe the videos we see and so on, but the text and what it says. And many people regard it to it as something scientific. They say to themselves, well, why would an AI system, it has biases, but why would it lie, right? And then you see systems like Grok becoming Mecha Hitler, for instance, a year and a half ago, or you see even in 2016, we had a Microsoft's Tay chatbot that suddenly became a Nazi, right? Now, it's not that the algorithm is evil and the technology is evil. This is not the case. The case is that it is trained on human biases, on human social interactions, on things that people write and say, and so on. And we have as a society, right, as humans, our problems, of course. And the worrying phenomena now is that the bad guys, right, those who disseminate anti-Semitism, they actually understand this and they abuse the AI ecosystem. Now, I will maybe finish this answer and comment with the explanation of what AI is. AI isn't a huge monolith that we just say, well, AI, it's scary, right? This is not the case. AI is an ecosystem. It's a whole ecosystem of smart algorithms, and you have the dissemination with smart bots, and you have generative AI, and you have many kinds of protocols to use AI, and so on the cloud, locally. You can combine models, you can have them with triggers, and so on and so on. So we need to understand this ecosystem and how it works to actually fight anti-Semitism, and not to regard AI as a big monolith and say, well, AI is, it's too complicated and there's nothing to. No, this is not the case. There's many things to do actually, and maybe we'll speak about these solutions in the following questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Lev. Your speech is kind of inspiring and giving some hope in order to master AI at some point. And since we are dealing with Europe here, I now would like to give the floor to Veronika from the European Commission. Thanks a lot, Veronika, for being with us. Hearing this analysis from Dr. Lev Topor, my question would be the following. How is the European Commission adapting its approach to this kind of rapidly evolving technology and to this ecosystem, as Dr. Lev Topor described it? How do the tools that are using the European Commission are efficient, or do we need to deepen these tools right now? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Shannon. Also, I hope you all hear me. Yeah, good.
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the floor, and hello everyone from Brussels. Well, to address your question, which is many questions in one question and hard questions. Well, in terms of violent extremism and terrorism, we see online dimension as somewhat of a cross-cutting issue, and that's how we have to also adapt our policies in these terms. What I mean by that, online dimension is an integral part of a radicalization process. It is integral part of the attack planning. It is integral part of attack footage sharing across different platforms. It overlaps and intertwined with other criminal activities in the online dimension, and therefore significant shifts in our policy had to be done. In April 2025, we have adopted the new European internal security strategy, so-called Protect EU, which presents a comprehensive EU-wide framework to enhance member states' capabilities in countering terrorism, and enhance measures to protect also the online dimension, and to prevent from the radicalization at the online dimension as well. While this is not exclusively focused on anti-Semitism, it provides overreaching tools anyway, in terms of protection and in terms of prevention as well. What's also important that in February 2026, we've adopted the new EU agenda to prevent and counter terrorism, which is the EU's strategic direction to address all the evolving threats, including online dimension, including evolving technologies, including violent extremism and terrorism, and other interconnected threats in this matter. This agenda is structured over 6 core pillars, where protecting people and in online and physical environment is absolutely essential. And having said that, our policies are also adapted to the fact that online dimension and offline dimension shouldn't be treated as a two dimensions anymore. They overlap, they intertwine, they are in fact one dimension, and it is what we call on life dimension in fact. So our commission's approach in online dimension, and I'm now contradicted myself because I said it's just one dimension. But when it comes to terrorism and violent extremism online, we do have a twofold approach: legislative and voluntary. The legislative approach includes so-called TCO, or Terrorist Content Online Regulation, and DSA, Digital Service Act. I will come to these later on. But what's the voluntary approach? The main platform for the voluntary approach is the EU Internet Forum, which is led by DG Home, DG from which I come from, and it is a very important public-private partnership which brings together, besides us as DG Home, other European institutions and agencies, including Europol, and also member states and EFTA states countries as well. And besides that, also technological industry, which is very important and very essential for structuring our policies, not only on the European level, but it gives also the possibility for member states to get in touch with the tech industry to create the policy which can adapt to the emerging threats connected to online dimension. Also, we do have prevention activities, which are very important in addressing the emerging threats in online environment, and these are under the umbrella of the Commission's EU Knowledge Hub on prevention of radicalization. And we did have the dedicated project-based collaboration on anti-Semitism, which was co-led by Germany and Austria, and 12 other member states participated, and it ran from May 2025 to January 2026. And in fact, last month, in June 2026, we had the last follow-up meeting, and we will then write also the follow-up, the PBC follow-up report, which should cover all the topics which were during this project-based collaboration discussed with the member states and with researchers together, including online dimension. And the flagship of the online dimension is the handbook on online anti-Semitism, which is meant for first-line practitioners, especially law enforcement, teachers, etc. But I think that I'll have a room to speak about this deliverable a bit later. So I hope I've answered at least somehow your question, how we're trying to adopt the policies and what tools do we have for that.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Veronika, for this kind of overview of the power of the European Commission. I just would like to recall also those who are listening to us that the European Commission also published the Digital Services Act. That also give responsibilities like to platforms in order to fight hate online and to prevent hate online. And maybe to recall everyone that the Combat Antisemitism Movement earlier this month called on the European Commission to launch a new tool that we called CNORA, Coordination Network Against Online Racism and Anti-Semitism, that will be kind of a coordination between all EU member states in order to share hate online where they identify, to share best practices and such. And this tool, and we hope to hear back also from the European Commission, is based on the French model of Pharos, if someone knows about this tool, which is a platform which is attached to the Ministry of Interior, when you can say, okay, this is an anti-Semitic content on X, I would like to show it and to report it, and let's see if the platforms then try to remove it and such. And in France it works it's kind of efficient, so we will let you know more about this when we have some news from the European Commission. Thank you, Veronika, again. Looking ahead, Lev, in your book, an interesting book, and I will share also the name of the book, Synthetic Hate. You argue that the issue is not like the abuse of one single AI, but kind of an entire ecosystem of AI and some tools and systems. And you explained this earlier today. But my next question will be, looking ahead, you have also warned that the next phase of AI risk may move beyond the digital space. Could you tell us more about what concerns you regarding humanoid robots and other AI-enabled physical systems?
Yes, wonderful. So, to our audience, if you thought this couldn't get any worse, so I'm sorry to let you know that we might be way worse in the future, because we have seen now that AI systems, biased AI systems, are being integrated into physical entities. So this physical entity could be a car, for instance. This could be a robot that helps you around the house. It could be a police officer in a humanoid, so to speak, robo-like, shape that patrols the streets. Now, if we know right now that AI is doing mistakes, that it is biased, that sometimes with Tay and Grok and so on, it even turns Nazi, Mecha Hitler, and so on. What would the consequences be if it is physical? We see AI integrated in cybersecurity tools, in weapons, in the service industries, even in penalties in courts in some countries, in credit scores in some countries, in camera systems, and so on. Now, the easiest example is, of course, to take not anti-Semitism, perhaps, well, anti-Semitism as well, but racism. So if you think of a police humanoid, right, enhanced with AI, patrolling the streets, maybe in 10 years. And by the way, this is by no means science fiction. Humanoids are now patrolling alongside real policemen and women, because this is their training. They need to learn. The algorithm needs to learn how to patrol the streets and how to see crimes or see inappropriate behavior and so on. So imagine that a humanoid patrols the streets and it is biased from the beginning. The data set is biased, the training is biased, and it sees a person of color, it sees a Jew, it sees somebody else, and it maybe thinks to itself, it calculates that he needs to handle the situation, right? So he can maybe make an arrest or shoot tear gas, or should now this sort of a net to catch people. Maybe if he has a gun, so he can even shoot, right? So the consequences are very real. This is not just a post online that some AI bot says like, all the Jews are like this or like that. This is real consequence right now. And we need to keep this in mind, and we need to stop this before. Obviously, we cannot stop the entire train, right? But we can moderate it. We didn't act fast enough with the internet. We didn't act fast enough with social media. We didn't act fast enough with normal AI. And well, we need to learn something as a human society globally, because we need to act fast enough in this sort of thing. Another point I would make actually is about accountability and liability. So imagine that this humanoid, a police humanoid, goes and discriminates a Jew or a person of color and so on the streets of Chicago or London or Paris and so on. And it does some damage. Maybe it even kills a person. Who do you blame? Do you blame the police station? Do you blame the company that made the humanoid? Do you blame the humanoid himself? And even if you do, how will you punish it? Will you take storage and RAM from it? Will you just unplug it? This isn't really a solution, right? So these are all things we must think about them now, and we must also act now. And the EU, for that matter, has the AI Act, which actually divides AI systems into categories by risk. And this is, as you heard with the examples, a very risky situation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lev. And you pointed out something that leads me to my next question to Veronika. Because as we can see, and both of you kind of agree on this, AI is now embedded throughout the digital ecosystem. And like everyone is using AI on a daily basis, whether it is like through ChatGPT, Grok, Mistral AI, like all these platforms in order to do research online and such. So what role can the AI Act, the Digital Services Act as well that we mentioned before, and that gives also a responsibility to platforms in order to remove hate content online, and other EU initiatives do play in ensuring platforms and AI developers act responsibly? Like, what's the link between all of this new regulatory acts that we have at the European level, Veronika?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to speak on behalf of my colleagues from DG Connect, who are actually in charge of DSA and the AI Act. Our regulation is solely the TCO. But well, definitely there is interconnection, and TCO and DSA and AI Act are very important EU legislation network in terms of illegal content and content created by AI, etc. And they are complementary. They're complementary. And when it comes to terrorism and violent extremism, they provide strong common rules for online platforms in this matter, and also for member states to stop the dissemination of the illegal content online, and in particular the TCO, of which I can speak more broadly, provide a unique legal framework to counter this, the content online, which can include also anti-Semitic narratives and content as an accelerator for violent extremism and terrorism and the radicalization process. And this is very important for member states also to enforce the TCO and all the tools which are under TCO. When comes to the platforms, you, Shannon, mentioned that they're obliged to remove the terrorist content, and they're obliged to remove it within 1 hour upon receiving remover order from the member states, because this is for the Digital Service Act, the enforcement authority is the European Commission, but for the TCO, it is the member states. In this regard. And the TCO regulation also, this I wanted to mention earlier, also applies to all hosting services and providers offering their services in the EU. This is also a very important fact. And when it comes to AI, which we're talking about today, mostly, it's agnostic. So could cover also, because you mentioned mostly AI Act, but TCO, as agnostic as it is, can also tackle and cover the AI generated content. And this is also very important and should be mentioned and should be disseminated broadly also, that it's not only the AI Act, it's also covered by the TCO, and its general nature in these terms. And the relevance of the TCO also has been proven by several recent attacks within online dimension, from manifestos shared online to footage shared by perpetrators right after or during during the attacks, and also bystanders footage, because this is something what's being brought recently, the bystanders footage, which can be even more harmful than the violent than the attackers' footage, as we saw it, for example, during the Christchurch attack. Because it doesn't have to necessarily contain all the or it doesn't have to be necessarily illegal in these terms. So we are also within the platform I mentioned before, the EU Internet Forum, working on the crisis framework and all in regards of the bystanders footage after which could be uploaded after attacks. When it comes to the Digital Service Act, it's much broader and much comprehensive. It's a horizontal legal act. So it's more a rule book for covering of all types of illegal content and projects, and setting out the oversight of the enforcement mechanism. And it sets also many obligations to online service providers, but in a more broader, general matter in terms of illegal content than the TCO, for example. And but what I wanted to also mention, that it's not also about content removal. It's in terms of prevention, we should focus more also on positive interventions, and not only on challenges and issues we see connected to the AI, but see also the opportunities for us in these terms, how we can create also let's say good content, positive content, how we can create these technologies secure. So security by design also should be added to create to the development of the new technologies. We do have, for example, community empowerment and engagement program, which is a program funded by the European Commission, and it's supports projects meant for positive interventions in an online dimension, in terms of radicalization, in terms of community engagement, in terms of for example, gaming, which is also ecosystem which provides a lot of space for violent extremists and terrorist exploitation, and it's being exploited very much so, and that's why also we are working on this this aspect of the gaming ecosystems as well.
That's interesting because at some point we also forget the importance of like the gaming ecosystem, which is also gaining ground,
Yes.
and not only
Yes.
at the European level.
Yes.
We only have a few minutes left, so what I suggest, thanks a lot, Veronika, is that maybe we can have, if there are some questions from the audience, so please feel free to share your questions on the chat section so that I can ask the questions to our two speakers. But before we end this online briefing, I just wanted maybe to ask you a last question to both of you. Short question, short answers, but that will be the following. According to you, what should be our top priority over, let's say, the next 5 years to prevent AI, algorithms, and such from becoming like an even greater driver of anti-Semitism and radicalization? The floor is yours. The top priorities.
Well, if I may start, may I, Lev? It will be short. It's just what I've said now. We do have a lot of restricted measures, but we should also look at the glass half full, and we should secure a secure development of the technologies. It's not that we want to stop the technologies and over-regulate the technologies. We want the technologies to be developed securely, and we want the technologies and the online dimension to serve the people in a good way. So that would be me. That would be the positive interventions, security by design, friction, and all the other tools. They've been already introduced, and there are so many. It's very broad. It's a very broad. It's a very broad topic, and no one really speaks about it. It's always about the restrictions, removals, da da da. But that would be my answer. We should focus more on the positive aspects, more on the opportunities, not the challenges. I mean, we have to address the challenges, but we should focus on the opportunities.
Thanks a lot, Veronika. Lev?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Veronica. This is indeed very important. And I would only suggest and add something to Veronica's argument. So we can deal with it in several manners. So we have an ecosystem. So we also need an ecosystem of solutions. There's no one huge solution to deal with the huge AI monolith because it is not that, as we said. So we can regulate, right? So the DSA, the TCO, the AI Act, and other frameworks globally. This is regulation, and we can indeed regulate and scrutinize the platforms and the algorithms and so on. Another thing we could do is, just like Veronica said, to utilize the technology for our benefit, meaning we can actually fight AI with AI. So if we see AI enhanced bots, we can use AI enhanced bot detections and so on. Or if we see AI content being faked and spread, who can use cryptographic tools and enhance it with AI and so on. So we have regulation, we have technological solutions, and so on. But I think the most important thing is to remember that we humans control AI, and we must be wiser than AI. Of course, we won't be efficient and we won't remember all of the things that the AI knows. However, we must be smarter in the sense that we must be wiser. And this is why I think the third solution is the most important one, and it is education. We need to educate ourselves from the early beginning, from the earliest ages, kindergarten, first, second, third grade, and so on, about not only digital literacy. We spoke in the last 20 years, we spoke about digital literacy. Now we need to speak about AI literacy. What can we do with AI? What can't we do with AI? What are the dangers and how to mitigate them? So these are the things we need to do, I believe so.
Thanks a lot, Lev. Thanks a lot, Veronika. And I particularly agree with your point, which is at some point to educate the young generation to critical thinking. Because as you said, like we cannot master AI, so we need to live with it, but we need like to give the young generation, especially that are like using screens and such, just to be able to recognize what's real, what's fake, and that's particularly important, I guess. Yeah, absolutely. I would like to thank you again for these insightful contributions, and I would like also to recall like all those who were able to join us today. This webinar will be available on the replay on our YouTube channel, and I think that more globally, if I may, and if I can like kind of sum up the knowledge and what we can learn from this 45-minute discussion is that addressing like the challenges that are like um, given by AI is impossible. But at some point we can try to master it through regulatory, regulate more regulation, the AI Act, the Digital Services Act, and such. Continued research as well. But I think that something that you both said is that we cannot master AI, but we need to learn how to live with it, how to be able to understand how it works, and then maybe to even use AI in order to master the downside of AI at some point. So, I mean, that was very interesting. I would like to thank you again. Understanding the link between AI and anti-Semitism was like particularly interesting, and I think that we have like plenty other topics to discuss on this webinar and online briefing. So I would like to thank you again. Have a nice afternoon or a nice evening for those who are in Europe, and see you soon. Thanks a lot. And thank you also to Oliver from the ARC team.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
too.
me.
Bye.